All right. Hi. Okay, so here we go. I have another book for us, and this one is called When I Was Young in the Mountain by Cynthia Ryland and illustrated by Diane Good. It's a Reading Rainbow book and a Caldecott winner also. When I Was Young in the Mountains. When I was young in the mountains, Grandfather came home in the evening covered with the black dust of a coal mine. Only his lips were clean, and he used them to kiss the top of my head. Do you know what a coal mine is? It's where people work inside of a mountain, like miles down into a mountain, and they're digging for coal. And coal is a burning resource. And they coal mine in Tennessee, they coal mine in Kentucky and West Virginia. There's not as many coal mines, and it's a very, very dangerous job. And when people lived in the mountains, that's what their jobs were. When I was young in the mountains, Grandmother spread the table with hot cornbread, pinto beans, and fried okra. Looks like they live with their grandparents, doesn't it? Later in the middle of the night, she walked through the grass with me to the Johnny house and held my hand in the dark. I promised never to eat more than one serving of okra again. So a Johnny house is this thing right out here. And you know what that is? It's an outhouse. No indoor plumbing. And you'd have to walk outside and away from the house and go to the Johnny house. And that's why her grandmother's walking her out there. She had an upset tummy from eating too much fried okra. I guess that could happen, huh? When I was young in the mountains, we walked across the cow pasture and through the woods carrying our towels. The swimming hole was dark and muddy, and we sometimes saw snakes. But we jumped in anyways. Oh, I do not think I could do that. I know I can't do that. Okay. Oh, no. That'd be a no for me. Nope. Would you go in? Would you jump into a muddy puddle? Mm-mm. On our way home, we stopped at Mr. Crawford's for a mound of white butter. Mr. Crawford and Mrs. Crawford looked alike and always smelled of sweet milk. They look like nice people. Don't you think? See if I can get the whole thing in. There you go. When I was young in the mountains, we pumped pails of water from the well at the bottom of the hill and heated the water to fill tin tubs for our baths. So they had to go to the well pump, and you pump the water, it comes through, and it goes in the bucket, and then they would bring it into the house and heat it up and use it for their bath. Not like us. We just get into the shower now, right? Most of us just hop in the shower, turn on the water, and boom, you got your shower. They had to actually pump their water and then heat the water to fill their bathtub. Afterward, we stood in front of the old black stove, shivering and giggling while Grandma heated cocoa on top. See, there's their pails that they would take a bath in, and then their grandmother would make some hot cocoa. They were cold. When I was young in the mountains, we went to church in the schoolhouse on Sundays and sometimes walked with the congregation through the cow pasture to the dark swimming hole for baptisms. My cousin Peter was laid back into the water and his white shirt stuck to him, and my grandfather cried. Oh, excuse me, my grandmother cried. Sorry. He's being baptized. You may have heard of that. If you don't know what that means, you can ask your parents. When I was young in the mountains, we listened to frogs sing at dusk and awoke to cowbells outside our windows. Sometimes a black snake came into the yard, and my grandmother would threaten it with a hoe. I get black snakes in my yard. Do you get black snakes in your yard? She looks a lot braver with black snakes in her yard than I do when they get in my yard. If it did not leave, she used the hoe to kill it. 4 of us once draped a very long snake, dead of course, across our necks for a photograph. Oh my goodness. Oh. See, they got the snake around their necks, yeah? Oh my gosh. When I was young in the mountains, we sat on the porch swing in the evenings, and my grandfather sharpened my pencil with his pocket knife. Grandmother sometimes shelled beans and sometimes braided my hair. The dogs lay around us and the stars sparkled in the sky. A bob white whistled in the forest. Bob, bob, bob white? That's what they sound like. Bob, bob, bob white? That sounds very peaceful, doesn't it? When I was young in the mountains, I never wanted to go to the ocean, and I never wanted to go to the desert. I never wanted to go anywhere else in the world, for I was in the mountains, and that was always enough. Do you think this was set in the modern days, like that could have been from yesterday? Do you think? Do you think this might be an older book, like an older story about another time? Did you notice on the cover that the children did not even have any shoes? We walk around barefoot now, sometimes without shoes, but we don't go to school without shoes. And we fill up buckets and from outside, and then bring the buckets in and heat the water up, and then take a bath in a bucket in the kitchen, or warm ourselves up by the wood stove? No, I think this was set back in the olden days, maybe when there was no electricity for them, because they lived on top of a mountain. They certainly didn't have indoor plumbing, did they? They had a Johnny house. That was called a Johnny house, or an outhouse. This was a good book. I like this book. And it's called When I Was Young in the Mountains. I hope you liked it. It was a good one. Yeah. Would you like to live in the mountains like that? I bet you could find someplace, even today, to live in the mountains and live like that. I bet you could. I bet you could choose to live like that, too. I think that they didn't choose this. I think that this was just their way they lived. But now I think you can choose this kind of a lifestyle. Would you live in the mountains and live without electricity and without indoor plumbing? I don't know. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know. I like being off the grid every once in a while, but nope, not for the rest of my life. I don't know. But this is a good book. All right. I hope you enjoyed it.